Peace and love, brother. Feel better is picking up from the last talk where we covered just the company level information of LifeVantage that you need to know right now, and of course the Feel Better program. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get into the science behind Phyto Power 1 and Phyto Power 2. That was one of the main products that I took within a 30-day window, and I'm excited to say I felt the effects of it, especially within the first 7 days. My body was definitely feeling the adjustment of taking that product. But it made sense when you consider the science behind the product. So let's get into that a little bit. In order to do that, I'm going to have Chat GPT. You know what? Actually, I'm going to have Gemini assist. If you're on the call, you should see me loading Gemini, the AI that is brought to us by Google. It's a very powerful AI, at least in the top 10 AIs in the world. And one particular thing I like about this particular AI, Gemini, is that it's trained on what would be Google's database, which would have the most up to date recent information. So if you're looking for something like news worthy information, recent updates to its training data, it's probably going to be better to go to Gemini. But if you don't care about the information being the most recent, then you can probably go anywhere to any AI. But like a ChatGPT, other platforms might not be as up to date when it comes to its data. And there's been times when I've asked other AIs for like basic information, and because the data wasn't as up to date, it gave me the wrong information and ended up hallucinating information. And then when I took that information to Gemini, because its data is up to date, it gave me the right information. That's just a little plug there for hashtag Feel Wiser. This is Feel Better, but Feel Wiser is all about educating the community about the various different AI platforms and how to effectively use them and understand what they're giving you back in terms of information. All right, let's jump into Google and let's just talk about the microbiome. So I'm going to say in here, hey, Gemini, I want to talk about the microbiome as it relates to LifeVantage product, Phyto Power 1 and Phyto Power 2. But before we get into the products, I want to get into the science of the microbiome, also known as the gut brain. I want to get into that first. All right, let's go ahead and send that. Now, what you just saw happen in this recording is that I am prompting the AI. Anytime you talk to the AI and give it an instruction as to what you want to accomplish in the conversation itself, that's called a prompt. And I am prompting AI right now. And as a result of my prompt, AI now comes back after it's done its various, what it called thinking and reasoning. It comes back with a reply. So it says, this is a great approach. Understanding the why, the science, makes the how, the products, make much more sense. The science of the microbiome has exploded in the last decade, completely changing how we view human health. Listen to that. The science of the microbiome has exploded in the last 10 years. So this explains why you and I, if you're within my age range, if you're like generation X, Y, or Z, millennials, whatever, if you've been educated on a human body, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, or even college, maybe college they taught you about it in the last 10 years, but before that, no one knows about this very important, very important part of the human body, the microbiome. It's just as important as the things we know about, like the kidneys or the lungs or, the intestines. We know about all of that. That's fundamental knowledge. A fifth grader knows these things, right? So how come we don't know about the microbiome? So let's continue. Here is a deep dive. This is Gemini talking now. I'm just reading. Here is a deep dive into the microbiome and the gut brain axis that you requested. What is the microbiome? Now, this is where it gives us a nice scientific, but not too scientific explanation about the microbiome. Let me give you my explanation, all right? Because I ran this by AI a few times already, and it was like, you're on point, Omari. Didn't quite say that, but you get my drift. So I like to think of it like this. From the moment you eat something, the first part of your body it touches when you swallow, as we know, is the esophagus, the throat, the esophagus. And we know, we've been taught that on the other end of that tube, which is a very long tube, by the way, and a lot of things happen in that tube, the esophagus being the beginning part of the front of that tube. On the other end of that tube is what we know as the anus, or traditionally called the butthole, the exit point. And that's when we eliminate the waste. We create a whole stink in the bathroom, and we have to go get incense or spray something before somebody's like, ew, what were you eating? So we know about the entry point and we know about the exit point. Well, what we didn't know until recently, like within the last decade, is that from that entry point of the esophagus all the way to the exit point, which is the anus, that entire tube, as long as it is filled with a network of brain-like and spinal cord-like neurons. It's a nervous system in that entire tube. And I didn't know that. I'm like, that's new information. I always just perceived it as like a tube based on, cellular tissue, but it didn't have the ability to like think and manage itself. So science is coming out now and saying, like, if you scroll down to point 2, it calls it the gut brain axis, the information superhighway. It says the gut brain axis is the bi-directional communication network between your central nervous system, which is the brain and your spinal cord, and your enteric nervous system. That's what the technical term for it, your enteric nervous system, which is your gut. They are constantly talking to each other, okay? So they communicate the same way we're kind of communicating, where something being recorded, which I'm doing now, is saved somewhere on somebody's machine somewhere. And then there's this big network of cords that connects that computer to your computer or your mobile device at home. Now, your mobile device is just really an extension of the physical connection. They figured out how to now transmit that in the air through Wi-Fi or other signals. But primarily, to get it to your house, it still has to go to that Wi-Fi router using a physical cord. Now, our bodies have a physical cord like that, and it's called the vagus nerve. And it's mentioning here, this is the physical phone line connecting the two brains, the brain in your head, and the gut brain that is going from your esophagus all the way to your anus. So we were on the same page here. You have two brains. Imagine them telling you that in grade school. You might have had a totally different childhood. They also communicate with chemicals, what's known as chemical messenger neurotransmitters. And so your gut brain is managing a lot of these neurotransmitters, and it sends messages to your head brain, which can change your mood. That's crazy to me. If I would have known that in grade school or middle school, I probably would have just ate a lot healthier, knowing that what I'm eating can directly affect how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling within. So that whole system is called the microbiome. So any point forward in the next 10 minutes, when I say the microbiome, now you know what system I'm talking about, all right? And we're at the point now where we've hit the second 10-minute mark. And I just want to close by saying I'm excited that you're here to learn about the microbiome. So I'll see you in a little bit. Peace and love.